Welcome everyone. I am Dr. Jen Leon and I'm with All Minds Math. Welcome to my talk. It's called Communicating Mathematically. On your screen, you should see a poll. Please, if you can just take a moment to answer the poll, feel free to check as many options that apply. And okay, Shelly, is that our final poll or are we still getting some responses?
I think that's it.
Okay. And this is our screenshot that'll go into our video?
Yep, just did it.
Great.
Yep.
All right. Wonderful. Great. Thank you for sharing that. Love to hear a little bit about you and at least kind of what your role is and what brought you to this presentation. I'm so happy to have you. Once again, I am Dr. Jen Leon, and thank you for joining my presentation called Communicating Mathematically. I'm so excited for this opportunity. And also, before I get in any further, thank you, Matt Hayes. That was just amazing. So incredibly, an incredibly important message for us all. Thank you for that. If you're just joining in and you missed Matt's live presentation, I really hope you will take some time to watch his recorded version. So today I'm going to share with you about how my amazing students and I do math together. This talk is for everyone, parents, students, self-advocates, educators, therapists, professionals, allies. While the focus of my presentation is mathematics education, I hope that it will actually serve a broader purpose in helping to further the movement of acceptance and understanding of all those who identify as neurodiverse, and to provide insight into how to offer this population the high quality education that is their right. So close my poll. So just to kind of give you an idea of what I will be doing in this presentation. So I'll start with a little bit of background about me and my journey that led me to do what I do. Then I'll talk a little bit about my services that I offer to those of you who might be interested in pursuing mathematics as a learner or an educator. And then I'll also talk about best teaching practices, specifically as applied to teaching students with sensory motor differences. And then I will move on to what I believe is the best and most important part of my presentation, where I will share some video and comments from my amazing students about what learning and doing mathematics means to them. All right, so let me start by telling you a little bit about me to help you understand how I developed my passion for teaching. My roots are in social activism. In the summer of 1999, just after completing my master's degree in mathematics, I did something radical and helped to lead a team of 10 cyclists on a 2,300 8-week-long endurance ride from Atlanta to the Grand Canyon with the purpose of raising awareness about sustainable energy and Native American rights. After completing this ride, I came back to Atlanta and completed my PhD in mathematics education with an emphasis in instructional technology. My dissertation was on service learning-based mathematics, which is a method for teaching academics in the context of community service. So for a long time, I have felt a calling to social justice and equity work. Toward the end of my doctoral degree program, I accepted a position teaching high school mathematics at the Paideia School, which is a wonderful progressive private school in Atlanta, Georgia, that serves primarily neurotypical students. Paideia is a truly special place. And I've been teaching there since 2003, and but starting this next school year, I'm going to be reducing my teaching load to part-time to make space for some exciting new developments that I'll tell you about soon. At Paideia, I have been able to continue my social justice work by serving as faculty sponsor to the Amnesty International Club and teaching a human rights course during our mini semester. I've also, as Laura mentioned, I've also expanded my skill sets to include some basic robotics and programming, and I get to teach country dancing, which is one of my favorite things. Another major event happened in my life about 7.5 years ago, the best one yet, and that is that I became a mom to this amazing human being. And this would set me on an unexpected path that would turn out to be the best gift I could have ever dreamed of. When my son was about 20 months old, we discovered that he's autistic. And fortunately, the Atlanta community is full of caring and knowledgeable professionals that led me straight to this community. And within a short while, I found my tribe, which is you all. And I've never looked back. Of course, it's not always been easy, but it has led me to where I am today. And for that, I am truly grateful. Professionally, this process of learning how to advocate for my son led me once again back to my roots in activism. And I saddled up this time for a lifelong endurance ride. First up was neurodiversity class, with the goal of promoting acceptance and creating spaces for meaningful interactions between neurotypical and neurodiverse teens. For the past 4 years, I've been teaching a mini semester course called Neurodiversity and sponsoring a neurodiversity club at Paideia. I've also enjoyed being directly involved in helping to develop a close partnership between Paideia and Connection School of Atlanta, which is a wonderful high school for neurodiverse students. And if you haven't had a chance yet to check out their recorded presentation, I highly recommend it. I hope you will. Simultaneously, I've been teaching math on the side to students with neurodevelopmental differences, including those with sensory movement challenges, both privately and in small groups and through STEAM-themed summer camps and workshops. This work has been the highlight of my career thus far, all because of my incredible students, many of whom I will have the honor of spotlighting in this presentation. I mentioned earlier that I have created space to expand this work, and my company, All Minds Math, now offers a wide variety of services for students, teachers, parents, and professionals. In addition to the tutoring and custom instruction and camps, we offer online courses and test proctoring, evaluations, school consultations, trainings for teachers and parents and other professionals, as well as presentations and webinars for the professional, educational, and community events. So starting in the fall of 2020, I already had exciting plans to begin offering online courses and tutoring in order to reach students beyond the Atlanta community, and the recent events just bumped up my timeline a bit. So over the past several months, I've been doing math with students individually and in groups virtually, and it has been so much fun. I am still planning to offer online courses this fall. They'll be open to all students, but structured especially to accommodate students who communicate alternatively. Potential offerings will include algebra up through calculus and advanced statistics. I am in the process of gathering course requests, so if this sounds of interest, please submit a request through my website, allmindsmath.com. So now I'll talk a little bit about my guiding teaching principles. The way I see it, the guiding principles I use for teaching neurodiverse students are the same principles I've been practicing for the past 20 years teaching neurotypical students. As educators, I believe our primary goal should be to build relationships in order to connect with our students. We should encourage a growth mindset in our students by continuously reinforcing messages of our belief in their abilities and their capacity for growth. That is, we must presume that our students are competent and capable. We should design interesting lessons that are appropriately challenging and engage our students. And we must adapt our lessons and methodology to make classrooms spaces that allow for equitable access to learning. I apply all of these principles with my neurodiverse students. And the way that I achieve equitable access to learning for students who are unable to reliably communicate through speech is to offer them a different way to communicate mathematically. While I do utilize tools like many of you are familiar with, the laminate and stencil boards and multiple choice options, keyboards, etc. As a math teacher, I also use a tool that I developed specifically for mathematics that is symbolically extensive and has greater adaptability for high-level mathematics lessons. It's a double-sided Velcro board that I call Math Board. I actually cut it out of a laminate on the Glowforge. Was my first attempt at making this thing. I've created a vast library of over 500 removable, interchangeable, high-level math symbols, as well as letters and phrases. You will see it in use in a moment with some of my students. Math Board is available through my website at allmindsmath.com, and I posted a coupon code, Innovations 2020, for $15 off. So now I want to talk about the best and most important part of what I do, my students. Currently, I teach students ages 9 through adults. The content ranges from algebra up through advanced statistics and calculus. Some of my students are in public schools, some in private schools, some are homeschooled, some are in college. I do teach all neurotypes, so I have a particular affinity for working with neurodiverse students. And among my neurodiverse students, most are unreliably speaking or non-speaking. So I invited my students to share a bit about how their math brains work and their beliefs about the importance of mathematics education for all. I selected a few videos to share of students doing math with me. These students, as well as a handful more, have offered comments to share with you all. This is Rishi. He is a 16-year-old student at Lambert High School. Here he is doing AP/BC calculus. In the video, you will see the limit problem that I've asked him to complete. And in the video, I'm going to read the problem and the answer choices to him. And then you'll see him select his answer. Okay, so the question is, which of the following is equal to f prime of 1 or f of x equal to 1 over x? You can answer A, the limit as h approaches 0 of 1 over 1 plus x minus 1 all over h. Answer B, the limit as h approaches 0 of 1 over h plus x minus h all over h. Answer C, the limit as h approaches 0, 1 over 1 plus h minus 1 all over h, or is the answer D, the limit as h approaches 0 of 1 over 1 plus h minus h all over h. You ready? Okay. Which one? Okay. All right, that was a very clear C. Check your answer. Okay, very good. Rishi says, my math brain operates on a point-to-point relationship between objects in a plane. My brain can see numbers floating all over the universe, converging to infinity. Doing complex math is very satisfactory to my brain. The need is to comprehend lines and numbers to help my brain process the overly complex thoughts in an organized manner. The math classes make me feel elated and give me lovely emotions like optimism and personal satisfaction. Math gives all kids times of immense satisfaction. This is Houston. He is a 23-year-old student at Gwinnett Tech. Houston has never had any formal math classes. This was the first day we met. We did all types of high-level math that day, including advanced statistics and calculus. Here he is computing the integral from 1 to e of 1 over x dx. The video is captioned in case you have trouble hearing the audio. So ln e, min, then what? Okay, minu minus, you got it. Yep, okay, ln O-N-E, ln1, yep. Okay, so I'm gonna flip the board. So you said ln e minus ln1. So what do we get? You can show the math, okay. 1, then minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 minus, you got it, 1 minus 0, yep. So ultimately equals, yeah. Okay, so the question was integrate the integral of 1 over x dx from 1 to e, which would be ln e minus ln 1. Well, okay, technically, what should we include? What should we include to be more accurate? Yeah. Yeah, A, B. Yeah. After L is, then, yeah. All the way over. B, then, yeah. You got it. Yeah, technically we should have done ln absolute e minus ln absolute 1, but it still ends up being just 1. Houston says, most of my life, numbers would talk to me. The numbers are interposed in the world like, sort of like forces going on behind the scenes. I see numbers leap to move with all the movement that uses power. Really, the entire world is numbers orchestrating power. Good power finds numbers and equations that prove themselves true. Numbers tell so many stories, creating work to sort out all the numbers and putting equations together so we understand the power used to move matter. When I met with Jen, losing the battle of creating these equations myself was lifted. Not only was that work with Jen the long-awaited proof of my purpose, it showed others how brilliant I am. Start to work with numbers to show the world how smart we are. This is Alexis. She is a 12-year-old student at Loom School. Like Houston, Alexis had not had any formal mathematics instruction thus far beyond basic computation. Here she is on our second lesson together, doing advanced Algebra 2 type calculations. In this video, I just spent about 1 minute teaching her to factor the sum and difference of perfect cubes. Then she went on to correctly factor a sum of cubes equation, but went further by finding the complex imaginary roots. That I had not taught her. In the video, I'll ask her to solve the equation x squared minus 5x plus 25 equals 0. And just a heads up, there is some background noise in this video, so I'm going to lower my audio, and you may wish to as well if you are sound sensitive. But what's more important than hearing the video is seeing what's happening in it, and her solution is captioned when it gets to that part.
What are the other two answers for x squared minus 5x plus 25 equals 0? For x squared minus 5x plus 25 equals 0. You ready? When x is divided by, yes, divided by, yes. Okay. 5 plus or minus 5x for all of 2. You're awesome. You are.
Alexis says, I find some patterns in the things around us easily, I think. It's not that I knew it already. I only just now learned it officially. It's that the pattern was already there to see. Math is easy because it's simply there. It's not new to learn like other subjects. When asked, are you excited to learn about math? She says, so excited. Here is another student. She's 11. And in these pictures, we are discussing algebraic and geometric properties of conic sections, including parabolas, ellipses, circles, and hyperbolas. Currently, we are learning to code games together. She plans to be a math whiz and a gamer. She says, I think math, such joy, peace. And this is Jared. He's doing Precalculus. Here we are learning about things like graphs of irrational functions, including asymptotes and removable discontinuities or holes, and how to use them to solve rational inequalities. Jared says, there's no real way to explain the difficulty experienced by everyday life. What's easiest to do is to find math problems to solve everywhere, regulating my senses and mind. And here's another student. He is currently learning geometry. And here he is using one of my favorite technologies, the TI Inspire calculator app. He's exploring triangles to determine the meanings of orthocenter, circumcenter, and centroid. He says, I like all kinds of math. Math is fun to me. The reason everyone should have access to learning math is to be able to live life to their fullest. Amelie is another student who regularly utilizes the Inspire Calculator app to supplement written communication. She is a rising 12th grader at Tapestry Charter School. This is Elise. She is a student in my advanced statistics class that just wrapped up. Elise says, many do not see the numbers I do. Math makes me feel like I can have intelligent conversations using language average people are unable to follow. Hard math lights up areas in my brain that would otherwise remain in the dark and waste away. Higham is also a student in the advanced statistics class. He says, giving my brain complex things to compute and solve brings me so much joy. The misconception that individuals with neurodiverse brains and motor challenged bodies can't be taught how to do real math should be reevaluated to make it possible for others like me to get the math education they deserve. I love that. All right, and before we get to questions, I'll share one last message from my students. In one of my robotics summer camps, we made a giant letterboard and programmed a robot to autonomously drive on it to spell a message that they collectively chose. The video will show the robot travel to a letter and do a little dance when it has selected the one it wants. The beginning of the message was, other than the time it takes us to spell, I would personally, I would argue that these students are actually quite extraordinary. All right, so now it's time for your questions. And just a couple of reminders, please keep your audio muted, but I invite you to turn your video on if you feel inclined. I should mention that this presentation is being recorded, but it's in such a way that your video will not be recorded in the final product. So feel free to turn your video on if you want to.
Okay. All right.
As a reminder,
So,
please direct your questions and comments via chat to Shelly Carnes, who is listed as host. And when you enter your question or comment, please identify your role. As we are taking a minute to get those questions, I'd actually like to say thank you to Shelly, who is the head of school at Hirsch Academy, which is a wonderful school here in Decatur, Georgia, serving students ages 5 to 14 with sensory motor and communication differences. Hirsch Academy is actually the organizer of this amazing event. So Shelly, thank you for moderating that chat for me. If you haven't had a chance to check out Hirsch Academy's recorded presentation, Educators to Educators, definitely you need to go see that. It's amazing. So I
Thank
will.
you, Jen.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
I would love to offer the first question, and this is from
Okay.
Nicola. And she said, if a student is communicating, and she's a communication partner, if a student is communicating using the set of 3 stencils, are you limited in terms of symbols, or do you use the board that you created even when they are still on the 3 stencils?
Mm-hmm. So, it's always possible to spell out answers. It is not easy to do that. And so what I ended up doing for the longest time before I put together this math board was, I did a lot of kind of improvising and using a Post-it note or a piece of masking tape and writing in a symbol that I needed. And that's okay. Obviously, if it's a stencil scenario, even there was a point when I wanted to make a math symbol stencil board with high-level math on it using the Glowforge, which is a laser cutter. I didn't actually get that far, but it's tricky. So that's what eventually led me to kind of come up with my own solution.
Okay, that's great. I have another question for you. This is from a parent, Jen, and her name is Joyce, and she says, I have a high school student who's non-speaking. He's a non-speaking typer, who enjoys math, but his communication partner does not want to go above Algebra 2. What would your suggestion be here?
Email me. It's tough because what I have found is that, it's important if you're doing math to be doing it in such a way that the person on the other end can kind of see the big picture. I've begun lessons and sessions with students when I'm trying to figure out where they are mathematically, and I always go at least at grade level, usually a little bit higher, and sometimes that's not enough. And so I might start doing Algebra 2 and end up doing calculus. And so kind of having the ability to go where it goes. The way I describe it is when I'm doing math with my students, it's like we're riding this math wave together and we go where it takes us. And so, it is important to be working with a mathematics educator that can do that if possible. It's tricky. So that's my best answer. But yes, please reach out.
So this is from a self-advocate. His name is Jackson. And he says, I want to learn complex math from you. His question is, do you do Skype or remote teaching?
Yeah.
And there was another person that asked if you have online courses. And for example, their son just completed integrated math 2, and the administration just told them that there's no one else to teach any higher courses. What do they do?
Yes. So yes, and yes, and yes. I would love to work with you, Jackson. And I am doing virtual sessions and having some pretty good luck. I do have to say that when all of this happened, I just love the energy that happens when I'm doing math with my students. And obviously before all of this pandemic, we were doing it, directly in person. And it's just, the way I describe it is like, it's the same excitement and as reading a good book or binge watching a show with your best friend, and you can't wait to see what's happening next. And it's just magic. And I didn't know exactly how that would translate when I went virtual. And I have to say, it's kind of still there, and that makes me so excited and so happy. So yes, absolutely. Please reach out. And to answer the question about the online courses, yes, I am trying to navigate that now. And please email me if you have a specific course in mind, or you want to just set up a phone call. I'm a little old fashioned. I really love just talking on the phone, or Zoom calls now seems to be the thing, just to kind of help you figure out what makes sense for you and how can we make it happen.
That's great. So here's an interesting question. This is from one of our participants, and she says, Jen, have you ever found a ceiling for your students when it comes to math?
More often than not is that I don't, I sometimes I can't find a ceiling. In fact, Houston, that first day we met together, by the end of our first session, I just, in that moment anyway, he kind of showed me that I'm going to have to do some digging to figure out a way to reach him where he's at. And so, yeah, I have not run into that as of yet. We just go and go and go, and the retention and the speed of the retention. And that's the other thing is that, if you're a traditional educator and, and I've been teaching in a typical classroom for a long time, 20 years plus. And so I'm used to the pacing of a typical classroom, even my advanced students. But this is something entirely different. And we just go and go and go. And as long as the feedback is that we're having fun and learning, I don't really worry too much about the pacing, and even sometimes even just the communicating part of it. Depending on where you are, it might just be that we're just, listening and talking and doing. without having to show too much of the work. You know, you hear all of that like in school, got to show your work, you got to show your work. Well, that doesn't necessarily translate for some people, and I have seen it enough to know that it doesn't really matter, that we just keep going and we keep having fun. Some other comments.
Great. This is a question from a student, and he's 18 years old, and he asks, how do I do grade level math if I've only done up to 7th grade math in school?
Okay. Yeah, so that was from a student, you said?
Yes.
Okay. You know, it kind of depends on each person. And if, I would say if you feel that you're being under challenged, then, you know, ask for more. I mean, don't accept anything less than what is, you know, than what you deserve. And I'm not sure if you meant that you're wanting more and they're not actually offering it, or that you don't feel ready. But if you do, but the message is the same. You know, this is your right, and demand that you get it. And again, you know, if you're not, reach out, and I'll do my best to help you get there.
That's great. This is from a parent, and she asks, it's Rithik, and she says, I would like to know more about the calculator app that you mentioned. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the TI Inspire is a calculator app. I don't know, those of you may remember in school being asked to buy those graphing calculators, those handheld calculators. I mean, I had like the earlier versions of the TI-83 and the TI-84 Plus, and they had the TI-89. Casio is another competitor, but the TI calculator app is now available for iPad, on the iPad. And for apps, it's a little expensive. It's $30, but it's so powerful and it does so much. And it's comparatively to the handheld app. You know, the handhelds are probably over $100 still. But it's amazing. TI has a bunch of tutorials on their website, and I am working with some of my students towards helping them to use the app, hopefully independently, to do their own math. There are a few things about it that are not quite user-friendly from a motor perspective, but for the most part, it's pretty awesome. So TI Inspire, TI and then the letter N, SPIRE. If you can find it on the Texas Instruments website.
All right, and this one is from Steve, and he asks how to get in touch with you again.
Yes, so my email address, actually, I'll switch back over to my presentation. Okay. There we go. So my email address is allmindsmath@gmail.com. And you can also reach me on Facebook at All Minds Math. I periodically will post some announcements through Facebook, and sometimes like an interesting, fun problem. And then I would really appreciate it if you had more questions that you want to ask that you didn't get a chance to, or if you think of some later, email me, or if you'll do the feedback form. If you go on the Innovations website under resources, and you'll see a little click here, there's a feedback form that I would really appreciate hearing your feedback on the presentation. And I guess it looks like we're probably wrapping up. So I'd like to offer a big thanks to all of my beautiful, amazing students, and a special thanks to Elise Edmond, who served as my self-advocate collaborator for this presentation. Thank you again, Shelley, and to all the other folks behind the scenes, Laura, working so hard to make this event possible, despite some incredibly challenging circumstances. Thank you to all of you for watching. And again, just reach out if you have more questions, allmindsmath@gmail.com. I hope to hear from you soon. Take care, everybody.